Hey guys, Matt Allen here. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin. Today we are doing a gear review, something we haven't done in quite a while. Over the winter, we have amassed quite a bit of new tackle. You know how it is. The colder it gets and the less that we're on the water, the more tackle we all buy. Tim and I are no different. So from rods to baits, we picked up all sorts of new toys, fished them, played with them, caught fish. Out of that, I came up with a handful of things that I wanted to present to you guys today. It really is just a hodgepodge. A handful of baits, couple of rods that I thought were either different or really good bang for the buck or worth trying that I think you guys will want to take a look at going forward. And we at least wanted to give you our 2 cents on them. First one is going to be a Lipless. This guy right here. The Raid Level Vibe. That's a JDM company, Raid. That's the Level Vibe. Now the Level Vibe I actually got last year. Fished it quite a bit. Little tiny bait. This is the Raid Level Vibe Big. In fact, I grabbed an old package. It's the Big. It's way bigger. Really, it's normal size, we would say. The Level Vibe is a fairly small bait. Lightweight, very small, tiny hooks. Phenomenal like pond style bait. But the Big, I tried again. After playing with the other one, I liked the bait. I liked everything about it except the size for where I fish. So I tried again, bought the Big, very happy with it. 5/8 ounce. It's a really unique bait. All of their level baits are literally that. They run level through the water. They don't tip up like a lot of baits. It's got a different action. I mean, it's still lipless. It's got a really tight vibration, but because it is running level, it feels different on your rod. It pulls back quite a bit harder than other lipless baits, and I like that. I like that heavy responsiveness, because then when something happens to it, you instantly know. The bait is incredibly well balanced. You throw that thing down on bottom, it'll land on its side and then stand up. I mean, it sits perfectly upright on bottom. It is not an inexpensive bait. It's a JDM bait, so keep that in mind. Very well balanced, unique sound. It's got one deep, loud knock in there. Just a heavy knock, 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 knock. Not a big rattle, not a bunch of rattles, just that deep knock. Stands up. Great color schemes. They only offer it in a handful of colors. That was my favorite. Really good option though. I think you guys should check that out. If you're a lipless guy, you want something different than everybody else, it's unique. It does come with a snap. I would take that off personally. I replace them with split rings. Everyone's different, but to me, snaps can lead to failure. So I take them off and replace them pretty quick. I left this one on while I was fishing just because it's cold water and the fish don't pull as hard. But going forward, going into the springtime, when you're really on a good lipless bite, I would replace that with a hyperwire split ring. Second bait, Vision 110. The Megabass Vision 110, we're all familiar with them, except this is the Silent. That is a new option. I am very happy with this bait. When we first saw it, we scooped them up right away. I mean, I ordered them like the second I saw them online. Picked up a handful of colors. I saw guys talking online. The one concern that I saw people talking about was whether or not a bait with a fixed weight in it was going to cast well. So that was my concern too. I'm happy to tell you I've been fishing with it, catching fish on it. The cast's great. I've still got great cast distance. They fish extremely well. In fact, I almost think that this bait has more flash. I don't know if it's in my head or not, but I think it has more flash than the regular 110. I'm very, very happy with that bait. I suspect that we'll be throwing these a ton this year, probably get some underwater footage on them. It's a killer. It'll be really interesting to see when the bite's wide open, how it competes compared to the standard bait, the rattle bait. But so far so good. Whacking fish on it, having a blast this winter. It's a great finesse bait. Third bait, completely different. We're going soft bait. Reaction Innovations Man Bear Pig. And why wouldn't they name it that? You know how Reaction Innovations is. Everything has a crazy name. It's a creature bait. Full-size creature. Takes a 4/0 EWG style hook really well. Texas rig it, use it as a jig trailer, flip with it. What I like about it is it's got a lot going on, a lot of appendages, big tails, but none of them are really bulky. So it's going to fish well as a punch bait and as a flip bait. It's going to fish well if you trim it down. It's going to fish well as a jig trailer. I also think that this bait will probably shine really well on a free swinging hook. And that's something we don't talk about a lot either, that style of fishing, but I think we will more this year because it is something that we do. But this is an interesting bait. I know that over the last couple of years, it's already won a pile of money kind of behind closed doors and nobody was talking about it. But now that it's widely available, we've been seeing success on that. Not an expensive bait. It's just another soft plastic, but it's different. You guys know how different it is. If you're the only guy with it, you're smashing. All the same colors as the beavers. Really good choice. Moving on to rods. We want you guys to know that we hear you. So, 2 rods. First one, Dobbins Colt. When you guys are down there in the comments talking about how you can't afford some of the stuff that we're talking about, we do hear you. But we want you to know that a lot of times the reason that we're not talking is that we haven't found something that we're willing to get behind. And we're not going to put a rod into a price category and recommend it to you just because it's in a price category. If it doesn't fish well, if we don't think it fishes well, I mean, everyone's opinion is different, right? But if we don't think it fishes well, we're not going to talk about it. But over the winter, we picked up a handful of the Colts just to try them, and am pleasantly surprised. They are going to be more moderate than, say, the Furies, Sierras, Champions, Champion Extremes. A little bit more moderate. But for some applications, that's a very good thing. So this is the 705 CB crankbait rod. Crankbait rod should be moderate anyway. I think they come in around like 79 bucks. I don't even remember. I ordered them back in November. Just didn't talk about them because I needed time to fish with the thing. But I think that's what that rod cost. And then I paired it up with a Canaan and went with a reel that was comparable so that it was budget friendly. It fit well. But I'll tell you, if you're throwing square bills, if you're throwing mid divers, small deep diving crankbaits, and it's got some carryover. I mean, if you needed to throw a jerkbait on it, you could. If you needed to throw topwater on it, you could. But a really, really good bang for the buck rod in a lower price point that I think will be advantageous for a lot of people. So we did want you to know that we hear you. We are always looking. We are always trying new tackle. And when we do find one that is worth the money, we'll tell you about it. And then last, another rod. We are out there experimenting, man. Along the same lines, we got like 7 or 8 requests. What do you guys think about Cashin? And that was spread over, I don't know, 6 months or so. And Tim and I are both like, I have no idea. I have no opinion on Cashin. So we needed to try it. So we scooped a couple up. This one is a 7'4". This is actually their medium heavy frog rod. But this particular rod, they come with micro guides. Not all of them, but most of their rods come with micro guides. So little tiny guides. So primarily fluorocarbon, or if in this case a frog rod, straight braid. I'll tell you, what I find going brand to brand to brand is not everyone is consistent on their action. So what one guy might think is a frog rod may not be the same for another company, right? This rod is softer than what I throw a frog on. Significantly softer than how I frog, but I think it's exactly how all the northern guys frog. Because all my buddies that live up north use significantly lighter frog rods than we do. They're not planning to set the hook on a giant in the slop. You know, they're hoping to jack a 3 to 6 pounder and get them out of there. So they use softer rods so that they can walk them a little bit easier with no concern of suddenly tying into an 11 pounder behind a tree down in the junk. So with that in mind, it's a little bit softer rod than I would frog on, but it is a killer rod. What I noticed about it is that to me, it's more of a universal action at 7'4". And I actually, even though it is micro guides, I went to light braid this winter. I don't even know if you could see this connection knot or not, but I went to light braid to fluorocarbon. That's 20-pound braid. I paired it with a Chronarch MGL, by the way. So 20-pound braid to 12-pound fluoro. The rod is fairly moderate. It bows fairly deep into the rod, and there's an advantage to that moderate action. You already know where I'm going with this: finesse jig fishing. The rod itself has fantastic sensitivity. Their handles are different. I wasn't sure I was gonna like it or not. So far I like it. It's comfortable. Seems to transfer the bite really well. I feel it. Finesse jig rod for sure. I also started throwing the Kitech on it, little finesse swim bait rod, that sort of thing. You could Texas rig on it. There's a lot that you could do with that 7'4", even though it's categorized as a frog rod. To me, it's an all-around moderate actioned medium heavy is where I would put it in how I fish. So because it is so moderate and it loads so deep, that's how I was able to go to that lighter line. Because I load the rod so deep, I don't need horsepower on a fish. So I was able to drop down to 12 pound. And once you go that light, 20 to 12, that little connection knot, it goes through micro guides like it's nothing. I mean, listen to this as it goes out. You hardly even hear it. It's not banging through the guides like you would think. Now, if I tried to put 50-pound braid on here and tried to make a connection knot, then you'd have problems. Then it would be hanging up in the guides. But if you're frogging, you're running straight braid. And if you're doing this stuff, we're running that light line, making an easy connection, and it powers through there, no problem. So again, just another option. We're gonna spend more time with these rods, both these and a lot of others. We always wanna keep looking, trying to find gear that's different, answer your questions. If we don't know the answer, we're gonna go out there, put some time in with the gear and try and figure it out. So check them out. We've got that Raid Level Vibe Big. We're gonna link all this down in the video description. Don't worry trying to remember it. But the Raid Level Vibe Big, I think, is gonna be a killer. That Vision 110 Silent is a no-brainer. I mean, every 110 guy in the world is gonna buy the Silent, and they should. It's a killer. The Man Bear Pig, that Colt, and then that Cash-In, all great options. I think you guys are gonna enjoy those. Try them out. Let us know what you think. Give us your thoughts. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. We'll talk to you soon.